Okay, cool.
Looking good.
Yeah.
All right. So these are the 5 commonly used GUI libraries: Tkinter, Kiwi, PyQt, Wix, Python, and PyGUI. And Kiwi is based on OpenGL. It's super modern looking. It's open source, designed specifically for mobile. And but of course you can use it on other platforms too: Windows, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi. And it's very beginner friendly, but it does have a special syntax that requires some learning. The community is hard to find, and the documentation is not easy to understand. PyQt 5 is actually a binding that allows you to implement the QtGUI framework in Python. It's written in C++, which becomes problematic later. It's only open source if you use it for open source apps. For commercial use, you're going to have to pull up a license. It has a very fancy Qt designer, so it's drag and drop interface if you're into that. And it's designed for desktop, but can work on mobile. This is scalable, and it has a big learning curve because it's a large framework and there's a lot to learn. The community is pretty prolific. There's good tutorials, but the documentation links you back to the general C++. So if Qt documentation, so if you don't know C++, this might be problematic. It's super easy to embed CSS sheets so that you can apply your own style. And PySide 2 accesses the same framework, but is completely open source, and I think even uses the same APIs as PyQt 4. Wix Python is an open source wrapper for cross-platform GUI library with widgets, and it's implemented as a Python extension module, open source, has very fancy advanced widgets, and provides native support for Windows, Mac, and Unix. It's also scalable and is becoming more popular. And finally, the PyGUI library, which is the most lightweight. It's the simplest, it's the best for beginners, open source, but very much like Tkinter is not scalable. Platforms across the desktop, Windows, Macs, Unix, and the community is a bit smaller. Now, actually using Tkinter, Tkinter works with widgets. All the objects are widgets, and the object created from the function or method tk, they usually call it root or the parent or the master, and that's what's used as the parent class. So you just from Tkinter import star and root to Tkinter, and that's pretty much all you need to get this started. I don't know, I did not include, just wanted to show you guys how easy that was. Let me see how easy it is to show you how easy that was. Oh, that's all right. So this is it. You just run that, and then the stuff goes there, and that's pretty much how easy Tkinter is. To use a widget in Tkinter, you have to define it and then put it on the screen, i.e. here we are defining the label, and then we're using path to put it on the screen. And again, you saw that earlier with and I just ran that program. Where did it go? Right. So there it is. Just goes right onto the screen. Tkinter has like a small good selection to make a quick interface to do things like pull up files if you need users to pull up files. And they've got buttons, entry, menu, scroll bar, list box, and combo box, all super easy to use, and different ways that you lay it out onto the screen. Grid's the most specific. You get to do columns, rows. Pack and place, it's more left, right, up, down. But they do scale well when you make them, if you want to increase or decrease the screen size. Yeah, grid allows, I just said all of that. And then you use the root main loop, and it's the continuous loop that updates and monitors events within the Tkinter program. And that's about it. And then the destroy function, or the destroy method, this is literally all you have to put onto the screen. Let's see which. Okay, so right, and so that's we've attached the function to the button right over here, and then you just say root destroy and it goes away. And that is my Tkinter presentation.
Any questions?
So,
go ahead, Udivan, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, Jorge.
Okay, my question, I've been looking for a graphical user interface that can draw nice curves. And I looked at Tkinter, and it's nice to put all these widgets, but if you want to draw on a canvas, it doesn't really have much support. Which of these frameworks or these would you recommend if I want to have some beautiful curves on a canvas?
I would probably go with PYGUI, because PYGUI or PYGUI, they both have the ability to let you create your own graphics and styling.
Okay.
Questions? If you want to stick to the standard library, would be the Turtle module. It's quite a bit more basic than those two, but sometimes you just want to draw something quickly and not have to worry about setting up another package, and that's pretty useful. Also great for kids that are learning to program, as they love to draw everything on the screen. It's pretty neat.
What is that called, Jorge?
It's Turtle. It's built into the standard library.
Very cool.
Is there a way to control the maximum, if you're using grid, is there a way to control the maximum width of a column? Because I've got a really ugly GUI that I created, and some of the columns are way too wide.
Yeah, I saw that, and we could talk later about that. If you want to talk about it on Saturday, I'd be happy to. But yeah, there's a way to control column width and span. But it's interactive with each other. It's relative to each other. So by adjusting one thing, you adjust other things. So it becomes a bit tricky sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I found. I started out and my columns were the right size, and then all of a sudden I did a couple more things, and bam, everything just got unglued.
Yeah, no, when I saw you using that, I felt really bad that I hadn't offered to help earlier. So I'd be happy to do that, to figure that out with you.
Yeah, everything was sort of going all over the place. It reminded me of an Air Force formation. So anyway,
That is not what you want on your interface.
no. Well, a lot of ships steaming independently.
Also, I think that's the first time I've seen a presentation done with idle. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw Eric's and then I was really jealous because all of his code was so nice and neat and he wasn't like sliding things all over the place. So I'm gonna ask you guys about that on Saturday too.
And when my comment about, the two presentations that you were talking about at the beginning, one of the things that I was thinking that you were going to be applying is talking about the properties of the widgets that are relative to the graphical interface, because when you talk about those properties, issues or concerns like what Gordon mentioned are easier to discuss or easier to understand how the widgets play against each other than how you kind of like put things in top of each other and then build the actual user interface.
Huh. I'm not that good at it.
Well, one of the issues that I found was that in something like Visual Basic, when you click on a drop-down list box, it opens it up and it says this is selected item. Well, when I tried to do the same thing with a combo box in Python, it didn't have selected item, and I spent at least an hour trying to figure out what is the equivalent of selected item. And I finally found some bind and some other things, and yeah, you have to set the text variable and things like that. So it was not an easy learning process.
So a couple of comments. I think I believe Tkinter is also part of the standard library. Excuse me. Is that true? I think.
Yes.
You just import it into whatever file you're working on, and it's in there. Like,
right. So
like
yeah.
that again?
I'm sorry.
I'll pull it up. Where is it? It's somewhere here. So this is I didn't pip install anything.
Your screen is not shared.
Oh my.
We can see your smiling face. That's it.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Sorry. That's.
Yeah. But I think what happens is, just like Qt, I think Tkinter is actually a framework which existed before Python, I think, because it was, I think, part of Tkinter maybe. And so a lot of stuff that you see being used in Python is sometimes weird. It's kind of hard to find. There are weird ways that Tkinter does stuff. That's what I remember when I did it a couple of times.
Yeah, Tkinter is a wrapper around TK, and TK has been around a long time. So you tend to see a lot of patterns that probably if we wrote it from scratch today, we wouldn't follow.
Right. Yeah.
I'm curious about Tkinter. How does it deal with like not blocking the UI thread? It sounds like probably like async IO is not in the mix. Is it all just like threading and like callbacks and continuation passing? Is that kind of the world of TK?
That is Jorge. Yeah, you got that.
The answer is I don't know. I do know that they do have a way to set callbacks. So I would guess that they use some kind of concurrency, but I haven't taken a dive into the internals, to be honest.
So what happens, so I've done this. So when you, so you can, I mean, assuming I've understood the question correctly, you basically bind a call to a button or something, and then it basically blocks, the GUI is blocked from really getting anything done. That was my experience. And I think I had to resort to a thread, a separate thread in order
Correct.
to.
That is correct.
Okay, so
Joes. What
the
what
concurrency is on
describing-
you, is that right?
So right, what Joes is mentioning is correct. Basically, if you are popping up like new widgets on top of each other, there was no way to move the widget out of the front and then interact with the foreground or object. I mean, to the background GUI. So to answer your question, Stephen, yes, it's a single threaded. You register callbacks. And then if you are trying to build an interface that, let's say you want to split a single application into two main windows, but allow the user to actually interact with different windows, then you need to resort to threads.
Any last thoughts before we get on to the next talk?
The beauty of Tkinter is one of the reasons why I started working with Glade and GTK.
I think Tkinter is the granddaddy of them all, you know, so it deserves some respect.
It may also be viewed as, this is an example of something that works, so now design something that works better.
Yeah.